Well, good morning. Happy Tuesday. If you're on the roads, maybe not so happy depending where you are. We have some slick conditions and several accidents out there this morning.
Yeah, thanks for waking up with us 6 o'clock on your Tuesday morning. We want to make sure you take your time. We're going to break down everything you need to know. I'm Samantha Johnson in for Julia Brooks alongside Julia this morning. You mentioned it, slick roads. We also have several school delays out there today. We've got those for you at the bottom of your screen.
But Chuck, I know this. So 74 West, which is pretty backed up right now.
Right.
Not even the only accident we have right now.
That's right. And that was the shot that we were showing you, our photographer Russ, on 74 westbound, which I know it sounds weird, but it's actually going north into the city. That's where that accident is, and we'll show you more in a little bit. Julia mentioned other accidents. This is one, I-65 near 82nd Street, and I'm going to show you where all these are on the map and how they're going to affect your drive to work in a little bit. But wow, what a morning. It is cold. We have slick and icy roads, especially south of the city, where we've got delays in places like Mooresville and Nineveh, Hensley, Jackson, and Spencer, and Martinsville, just to name a few. Most of these are south of the city. Right now, 16 here, 19 Martinsville, 18 Shelbyville, only 11 degrees in Crawfordsville. But you factor in the wind, read it and weep. It feels like 4 in Indy and Danville, Brownsburg and Avon. It feels like 4 in Zionsville, 1 in Crawfordsville. You folks in Greenfield, the wind chill is 5, and it's 9 in Richmond and Rushville this morning. So a very bitter cold start to begin our day, and some of you still a few snow flurries hanging around east of the city. This has moved out of Muncie and Newcastle, but right is around Richmond and the IU East campus right off of I-40 or I-70, excuse me, right now off of US 40. To the north, the winter storm warning remains in place for South Bend until 10 o'clock. But here, it's quiet. It's just really cold. For the morning rush hour by 8 a.m., 18, 27 when the kids are having their lunch this morning, and a high of just 32 degrees. We're going to break all this down for you in a few minutes. But again, a really tough day on the roads here in Indianapolis, and it's at different parts of the city this morning. So let's first go to the south side. Again, we showed you Russ's shot, and I'll tell you in the control room, if you guys have that shot anytime, just poke it up. There it is. Okay, so that's the shot. This is the backup on 74. Now, this is all the way in the Wanamaker area. So we're talking about a huge backup, really, that would be at 465, 74, that's where 421 comes in. Then all the way to Wanamaker, you're down to 1 lane. Now, let's show you this on the map, and this will make a lot more sense, I think. So look at this backup. This is the area of red. So this is where 74 goes into 465 right there, and that area of red is all the way down to 1 lane, and that is a very significant area this morning. That's people trying to get into the city. The other accident we're watching is up here on the northbound lanes of 65. So here's the wreck at 74 near Franklin Road. This is Post Road looking towards the north, and you can see they've got it at 1 lane, but this is still a major backup. Then this is I-65. Tow truck is there trying to get this vehicle out that was involved in the crash. What could happen is that they limit or really slow down the 1 lane that's open to get that car out. A lot going on. We hope no more, but we'll have more for you in weather and traffic, Julia, in a few minutes.
Yeah, you have to take care out there this morning, Chuck. Thank you. Well, in just a few hours, 2 IMPD officers will be back in the courtroom where they're on trial for the death of Herman Whitfield III.
Yeah, his family called 911 for help more than 2 years ago while he was having a mental health episode. Officers restrained him and shocked him with a taser. He died in police custody.
Matthew Foltz is in studio with us this morning to walk us through opening statements and what that could mean for later in this trial.
Yeah, so the jury heard opening statements yesterday from both the prosecutor and attorney for the 2 officers. An IMPD sergeant also testified saying that they responded to the Whitfield home during the call for assistance. Now, 13 News had cameras rolling as Officers Steven Sanchez and Adam Ahmad entered the courtroom. We also were only allowed to film the opening statements of day 1, and during those statements, the prosecution questioned the officers, telling the jury they had their hands on Whitfield's body as he was face down in handcuffs. Meanwhile, the defense says their actions were reasonable and that the officers did not apply downward force while Whitfield was on the ground.
By forcing him to remain in the prone position, by preventing him from getting into the recovery position, sitting on his side or sitting upright so that he could breathe, they committed a battery. And that battery resulted in the death of Herman Whitfield III.
None of them heard him say he couldn't breathe. Nonsensical things that they couldn't make out. They heard him make noises that were completely unintelligible, but they did not hear him say he could not breathe.
The jury also saw IMPD body camera video from another sergeant's viewpoint who also responded that night. Julian and Samantha, we do know that 3 witnesses were called to the stand on day 1, including Herman's father. We'll share more on that coming up on 13 Sunrise here at 6:30.
Okay, we'll see you then. Matthew, thank you.
Well, this morning, IMPD is looking into a deadly double shooting that happened on the west side. It happened yesterday at a home on 38th Street near Meridian. And what we know right now is deputies with the Marion County Constable's Office say they were actually walking around outside of that house when they heard gunfire coming from inside. When IMPD got in there, they found a man and woman both shot and killed. A neighbor tells 13 News she never noticed issues in that home before.
It's just sad, like again, just like someone's last moment. You just never know when it's gonna happen, and like just right after the holidays, right in the middle of the holidays, it's just, you never know when your last day is gonna be.
Police say there is no direct danger right now to the public.
6:06 now this morning, IMPD is searching for the person who stole a car with 2 baby girls inside. Those girls were found safe yesterday, abandoned in a ditch near Emerson and Prospect. Police found the stolen car close to the area where those babies were left out in the cold. So now we're working to get a description of the person who stole that car. Police are asking anyone with information to please help. You can call them or Crime Stoppers. And as a reminder, that number to remain anonymous, 317-262-TIPS. This morning, Johnson County investigators have pinpointed 3 juveniles in connection to throwing objects off an overpass onto I-65. You'll remember multiple drivers called police last month saying they were hit by something near County Roads 250 South and 600 East. Deputies later found more than 100 baseballs and softballs along the interstate, and they discovered those balls had been stolen from a Little League in Franklin. The Johnson County prosecutor is now looking into it to consider potential charges in this case.
Well, new for you this morning, we're working to find out how a fire started at a popular West Side restaurant. Right now, the owners of Man's Grill on South Tibbs near Moores and Holt Road are assessing the damage from this fire. Our crews stopped by there this morning to look at the aftermath. Right now, we're reaching out to find out the extent of the damage and if that restaurant will still be able to operate in any capacity. We'll, of course, pass that information along to you as soon as we learn more. Well, this morning, the city of Indianapolis is steps away from building a new low-barrier homeless shelter east of downtown.
So the City County Council voted last night to approve the funding for this project. Our Sia New Yorker is live in the newsroom this morning with what this could mean moving forward. Sia, good morning.
Good morning, Julia. Good morning, Samantha. The new shelter will be built on the corner of Georgia and Shelby Street. Now, that's just north of Fountain Square. It's expected to be about 4 stories and 63,000 square feet. Now, the goal is to be a one-stop shop for those experiencing homelessness, offering supportive services while also giving them a place to stay. Now, officials say the shelter will provide about 150 private beds. 20 units with 4 beds will serve families, while 10 units with 2 beds will serve couples, and the remaining 50 beds will go to individuals. In total, construction is expected to cost about $32 million and will be entirely funded by tax dollars. City leaders say they hope this shelter will be a key piece to Indy's housing puzzle. The city's most recent census shows that 1,700 people are experiencing homelessness in Indianapolis.
It is really the difference between our ability to fund the shelter and the housing hub and the co-located services and really build the low barrier shelter that our community desperately needs to fill in the gaps and to ensure that we're providing low barrier a 24/7 emergency shelter environment, both for our families, singles, and then couples who also are not being currently served from our current shelter system.
Construction is expected to be completed at the end of 2026 with plans to open in early 2027. However, the city still has a few more hurdles before breaking ground, like next year, like figuring out some of the operation costs. We'll talk about that coming up on Sunrise at 6:30. Ladies.
All right, thanks so much, Sia.
Well, this morning, schools across Indiana are experiencing a shortage of special education teachers, but now UIndy is stepping up to help fill those much needed roles. One of those districts is Perry Township Schools. That's where Andrew Bova is a teacher at Perry Meridian Middle School. Initially, he couldn't apply for the role because he didn't have a special education degree. But that all changed with UIndy's I-SEAL program. So right now, teachers are allowed to work in the classroom on emergency permits, and through the program, they can earn their special education license at no cost. Since the program started in 2021, more than 550 teachers have completed it.
We just haven't had as many candidates. We have some very qualified candidates that do apply, but in the past where we may have 10 candidates for an opening, we may have 2 or 3 candidates for a specific opening.
As for Bova, he says he plans to earn his license next fall.